does that mean? Oh, I figured that.
Hi, John.
Show you my new car when you get a chance.
Okay, thanks, John. There is no love somewhere. There is more love somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. Come and sing along with me. There is more hope somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere, and I know there is more peace somewhere. You know there is more peace somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. Okay, let's get this one. There is more joy somewhere, and you know there is more joy somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. Good.
Good morning. Welcome to the Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. We're glad to have you with us. UUCS is a welcoming congregation, and we appreciate your unique background, experience, beliefs, or lifestyle. If you're one of our longtime members or have been here a short time, or if you're joining us today for the very first time, we're delighted to have you with us. We also want to welcome those of you who are watching through the internet. We welcome you as well. It is our mission to join together to create a nourishing liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world. Or in short, to create community, find meaning, work for justice. I have a couple of announcements. A reminder about the holiday party next weekend, next Saturday night, and the cookie sales going on Saturday as well as Sunday. So if you want to participate by baking cookies or buying cookies, that's a great thing to do. And then also this afternoon at 12:30 in the chapel, there'll be a meeting for those of you who are interested in going to Felsoracos, our sister church coming August. More information will be available at that meeting. So I am your lay leader, Lisa Conger, and with me this morning is our special guest speaker, Colleen Russell. I will more formally introduce her closer to the sermon. So right now, please take a few minutes to greet one another. Hold out a hand to someone you haven't met yet. Thank you. We'll have more time for conversation over coffee after the church service today. We now turn from our informal greeting of one another to formally begin our service by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniqueness. May the small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope for those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it has been found. Our opening reflection is a poem I wrote about 5 years ago on the occasion of a visiting minister's sermon, which was entitled Love Beyond Belief. Love beyond belief calls on us to be love's emissaries acting in the world. Love beyond belief calls us to be love's prism, refracting light to reach all corners. Love beyond belief calls us into relationship with one another and with all beings. Love beyond belief calls us to find beauty, speak truth, and to blossom into our true selves. Love beyond belief calls us not into perfection, but into process with kindness and compassion. Love beyond belief calls us into being, calls us into action, and calls us into wholeness. Love beyond belief is a love I believe in.
Our first in-service hymn this morning is Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire, number 34. Please rise in body or spirit. Though I may
Christ we worship and are free.
Okay, before I invite all the children up, of course, if you've been to the women's retreat, you know giving me a microphone is it's a complicated thing because I'm loath to give it up when I'm done. But I just wanted to say how grateful I am to be here today and to have an opportunity to tell stories. And because of my life, I'm so busy, crazy busy. I can't get involved in a regular way back in religious education like I would really love to do. And so when they were making a call out for storytellers, this is perfect. I may never do it again this year, but I've been so excited to do it today. So if you have a similar feeling, a desire to be involved in a very little way, consider volunteering to tell the story for all ages some Sunday. It's a real hit. It's fun. And as you will soon see, synchronicity is a thing. Enough said. All right, so children, come on up. Children, come on up. Come on. I know Nathan's here. Okay, I'm going to move down here. Hi, guys. Hi, Nathan. How you doing? Good. Hi, everybody. Everybody have a big dinner a couple days ago? Yeah. Did you? Was it good? You had an early one? No way. Mac and cheese for dinner. Nothing like those good foods. Hi, Coral. How are you? All right. Well, I too had a fabulous time with my family this weekend. I have a bunch of brothers and sisters, and one of my brothers came over. Anybody here have a brother? Anybody have a sister? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody have a really good friend about the same age as you are? Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to tell a story about two brothers. You will relate to some of this story if you've got a sibling, let me tell you. All right, these two brothers, they grew up in the country together, and they loved where they lived, and they loved each other. They loved each other so much that they thought, when we grow up, we want to live right next door to each other. Well, they found property. There was a creek running between two beautiful pieces of land, and one brother took one side of the creek and created a beautiful farm growing vegetables. And the other brother took the piece of land, you come up here with me, took a piece of land on the other side of the river, and he grew grapes. Oh, they spent so much time together. They loved being together. They loved having their families together. They shared everything. Thanksgiving dinners, tools, stories, family adventures, loved it. And then one day, they had a disagreement. You ever had that happen? You just don't agree on something? Yeah. 2 hands up. I get it. Well, they had a disagreement, and they could not find a solution, and it turned into a big argument. And then it turned into a big, big ball of bitterness where they couldn't even talk to each other. No longer did they talk to each other. They didn't want to see each other. People in town were just shocked because no one ever thought they'd see them apart. Very, very angry with one another and couldn't talk about it. One day, a carpenter showed up at one of the brothers' house and said, "Do you need anything built?" Boy, the brother looked out and said, "I want a big fence. I want a big fence in my yard along the river so I don't have to see my brother anymore. I don't even have to see his house, what he's doing. I'm just so angry. I may never get over it." "Okay," said the carpenter, "I will build just the right thing for you." Well, the brother went to town because he didn't want to be there and get in the guy's way while he was building. And so he was gone for a good part of the day. And when he came back and pulled up into his yard and got out of the car, he was stunned. He was shocked. Because guess what? No fence. There was a bridge built, a beautiful bridge across the river over to his brother's house. He was speechless. He couldn't think of a thing to say. He just stood there. And when he looked out, here came his brother coming across the bridge. So he walked out to meet his brother halfway, and the two looked at each other and hugged each other and said, I don't know what happened. I couldn't, thank you for building the bridge, said the one brother. And we can't go on. We've got to find a way through this. They were so excited. They went to talk to the carpenter and said, oh my gosh, please tell us you'll stay. We have so many other projects that we need done. And the carpenter looked at him and he said, well, thanks for the offer, but I got to move on because I have a lot of bridges to build. So next time you're in that place with that brother, that sister, that friend, that mom, that dad, that grandpa, think about how you might build a bridge instead of a fence or a wall. Now it's time to go to our religious education classes.
We light the second chalice so that as our children and youth go to their chapels, they carry the light of our flame with them. May it illuminate, inspire, and warm you as it did us. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world. Thank you, Magdalena. Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our minds and hearts, and who we want to wrap in our love and care. We kindle light this morning for Rhonda McDowell's husband, who has entered into hospice care at home. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others who are here in our hearts this morning, You are welcome to say their names aloud as you are willing. Those named aloud and those remembered in the silence, and all those who are suffering elsewhere in our world this hour, we hold in our community of compassion. Now, take a few deep breaths, find a comfortable posture, close your eyes if you wish, as we enter into our time of meditation. Let us enter the silence with this quotation from Emily Dickinson. All I know of love is all there is. All I know of love is all there is.
I'd gladly walk across the desert with no shoes upon my feet to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? I would whisper love so loudly every heart would understand that love and only love can join the tribes of man. I will give my heart's desire so that you might see. The first step is to realize that all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
Thank you so much. That was lovely. Our guest this morning is Colleen Russell, the Artful Sage, author of The Feminine Path to Wholeness, Becoming a Conscious Queen. Colleen is a women's empowerment and creativity coach whose passion is helping men and women find and live their authentic lives. She regularly leads women's retreats, speaks before groups, and co-facilitates trips abroad. Welcome, Colleen.
The other morning I was going off somewhere, and my husband always likes to turn on the TV and check what's going on politically. And I hear, the world is more divided than ever. Or people are more divided than ever. And then I am in my car, and I have on NPR, which I really appreciate and listen to often. And you know, I hear this report that there's unrest all over the world, that democracies are being threatened, and there's a lot of people in the world today that just aren't seeing the world the same way as the other person does, and it's creating quite a rift, as you know. And I had a teacher, as I was working through my degree in transpersonal psychology, named Angeles Arian, and she said, if you're going to talk about something, I think first of all, you have to name what the problem is, and then you need to provide at least 3 or 4 working solutions to whatever that problem is. And I believe we've gotten caught in just sort of meandering around with the problem and really not seeking solutions. And since that's one of my passions, is I've been starting to explore, well, how can we build a bridge? And can love build a bridge? And it's interesting, when I came here this morning, I had the story of the 2 farmers, just as Cindy told the young kids down on the floor, and I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? A precarious case to be, to say the least. And I want to say a little bit about the story, elaborate a little bit, and then I want to tell you a real life story that I had that has given me the opportunity to see if I could put this in action. But as you know, the brother went off to town when he asked the carpenter to build the fence. And when he was returned, he was surprised at the most that he said, when he came back, he said, when he got out of his car, his jaw dropped because he couldn't believe his eyes, that there was no fence at all. Instead, there was a bridge. And it was a simple bridge and a sturdy one, and he had to admit that it was lovely to look at, and it stretched from one side of the creek to the other. But he said the bridge wasn't even what surprised him most. What surprised him most was the sight of his older brother coming across the bridge, his arms outstretched. The older brother said, "What a wonderful brother you are to build that bridge. Thank you." And then the brothers met in the middle of the bridge, and first they shook hands awkwardly, and then they got down to business, and they hugged each other and apologized to one another for all the hurtful things that they had said and done. And when the brothers turned back to thank the carpenter, as we heard from Cindy, he was going back to the truck and again told them, you know, he'd love to stay, but he'd have to go because he had more bridges to build. But what I want to emphasize as the last part of this, as the brothers watched the carpenter drive away, they promised that the next time they had an argument, that they would meet in the middle of the bridge and work it out. And that they would stand there and work it out side by side. So I just want you to hold that being in the middle of the bridge as I move forward this morning. This summer I had an opportunity to reconnect with a estranged brother that I had. He got in an argument with our family after my parents passed away, and my parents didn't have much. We had 9 kids in the family, and he was the eldest, and apparently some of the other sisters sort of took some power and control that he thought was his, and I can understand that it was hurtful, but he severed himself from our family. And not only that, but he also severed himself from the larger family, all the cousins and aunts and uncles. And I remember having conversations with him. It had been 17 years since I'd had a conversation with him, but way back when he made this decision, and tried to find a way to bridge with him that he didn't have to go down that road. Anyway, to make a long story short, the 17 years passed, and I was just at a reunion this summer, and I told one of my aunts and uncles asked about him. I said, I really don't think he'll be back ever. I think he will die, and we will not hear from him again. And then on another family reunion that I was going to with my immediate family, one of my sisters said, well, I think my brother wants to come meet us at our family reunion. And of course, some of my siblings were not ready for that. And so we decided that those of us that were ready to meet him again would meet him where he lived and just have a conversation with us that wanted to. And I happen to be one of those, because I think love can build a bridge. Over the last 6 weeks or so, he's been communicating with me through email, and part of what divided us, I believe, too, is that he's very fundamentalist in his beliefs. He calls himself an absolutist. And at that time, it felt like he needed to shun us because we didn't believe exactly like he believed, or at least that was a story that I came up with of why he would sever from us. And as we went back and forth during those 6 weeks, I thought, well, I'm talking about love being a bridge, then I need to be this love that builds a bridge. And every time he would throw a dart at me that felt painful in words, I would just have to take a breath and say, okay, that really hurts my ego when I hear that, and I feel it sort of in my power center that he's threatening my power and my beliefs, and I would breathe and not retaliate back. Instead, I would just be loving and kind. And we got to a place where it kept getting more tension-filled again. And one of the requests that I'd had when we started down the road is, let's please not make this relationship based on our religious views. But he is very passionate, and I think that he's very one-minded in what he talks about. So that's what the conversations became about. And at one point, he sent me a letter saying that he was getting so frustrated because obviously I wouldn't change my mind. I couldn't see the world, and he had the truth, so why couldn't I come that way? And he invited me to read some Bible passages, because I suggested, well, maybe we can read some books and share and come to understand each other that way. But he said, I'm so frustrated. I think that if you can't read the Bible passages that I give you, that maybe, my last thing to do is I'll just turn you over to Jesus, and you can have your own experience of Jesus on the cross. And so, of course, I wrote back and I said, God bless you. I know if you could do this any differently, that you would. And I said, I would prefer that you turn me over to Jesus and let me have my own experience. And I also went on to share with him, because he'd been out of my life for 17 years, I said, I don't know if you know, but alcoholism has been an affliction in our larger family for years, and it was something that I struggled with as well. I said, but I have not had a drink for 10 years, and I said, I didn't get there through my own willfulness. I got there by turning my will over to a higher power. And I assume that that higher power is really the same thing that we're both talking about. I'm assuming that it's also the power that you're talking about. And so he stepped back a little bit, and he sent me some, how's the weather kind of emails, which I appreciated. But I just got this message from him over Thanksgiving, and I think it's a small miracle. It said, I'm thankful that my life is now fuller with brothers and sisters than at the first of the year. I'm thankful that you have stuck with me through thick and thin. Hopeful that both of us can come to a deeper understanding of the other. Because of you, my positions are being altered. with a deeper respect that everyone is drawn from different positions for a different destiny to be the picture of his handiwork. Wishing you and yours a happy Thanksgiving. And I consider that really a very big miracle. And I'm assuming that we will still, as growth happens, it will be 3 steps forward and 2 back, that this isn't the end of the road here, and that love will still be required, and thoughtfulness and responses. But I want to talk and give you some thoughts for today about how do we build this bridge when we have these seemingly unresolvable conflicts, because I think that more than anything that this is really what the world is in need of. And I believe that we need to recognize, first of all, that the world is made up of opposites, and that conflict really is a part of life. There's a creativity coach that I read sometimes. His name is Eric Mazel, and he says, creativity is born out of the tension of opposites. A baby is born out of the tension of opposites. So we have to recognize that tension is a part of life, and it's often the way that we grow, because when things are working well, we're not growing that much, usually because it's all comfortable and fine. So tension is a part of life because we live in a world of duality. And the law of duality states that everything is on a continuum and has a complementary opposite within the whole. There are 2 sides to a coin, but there is only the one coin. So in other words, things that appear as opposites are in fact only 2 extremes of the same thing. What becomes problematic in the law of duality is when we start thinking that one aspect of the spectrum is better than the other, and we start labeling things as right or wrong. And sometimes when we attempt to balance duality, we often find ourselves attracting the opposite. For instance, we might say that we want more clarity about something, but end up feeling more confused than we were when we started asking for the clarity. The law states that the moment you call in that which you are seeking to balance, that everything in its opposite will come tumbling into your life. The teachings of the Tao suggest that we can find oneness and unity within these 2 paradoxes, or these 2 extremes. For unity comes from an understanding and acceptance of both sides. Let me say that again. Unity is an understanding and acceptance of both sides. And in the story, remember, the men meet in the middle of the bridge. And I want to bring in this quote by Martin Luther King, who said, one day we will learn that the heart can never be totally right if the head is totally wrong. Only through bringing together of the head and the heart, intelligence and goodness, shall man rise to a fulfillment of his true nature. So a unity consciousness would ask us to bring these opposites together and to find the middle ground. And notice when we bring the opposites together, if these are the 2 extremes and we find the middle ground, we're back to prayer hands. And I think, with a background in psychology, that if we really want to heal what ails us in the world, that we need to begin with an understanding and acceptance of all the opposites within ourselves. Julie Hanks, who is a social worker, writes that self-acceptance is the first step to embracing differences in others. So I believe we need to start asking ourselves, am I able to hold the dark and light sides of myself? Or do I disown some parts of myself and I project it out onto you? Are there hurtful places inside of me that I've repressed and I don't even know about? And when I see it, I project it onto you. Jungian psychologist James Hollis says that the purpose of therapy is not to remove suffering, but to move through it to an enlarged consciousness that can sustain the polarity of painful opposites. I believe that as we learn to contain and unify the dualities within ourselves, the easier it becomes then to hold it within others. From 2007 to 2010, I had an opportunity to participate in a 3-year body-soul leadership course with a Jungian analyst named Marion Woodman. And as I look back, I would say that the essence of her work was to teach all of us that participated in that how to hold the tension of opposites within ourselves. She says that holding an inner or outer conflict quietly instead of attempting to resolve it quickly is a difficult idea to entertain, and it's even more challenging to experience. But Carl Jung believed that if we held the tension between the two opposing forces, that there would emerge a third way which would unite and transcend the two. And I could hear her voice now as she taught us. She would say, "Both arms on the cross, we dare not drop the tension. If we reject one part, we give up our past. If we reject the other, we give up our future. Whether we like it or not, we need to hold our roots and build from there." She also said that spiritual birth, like biological birth, requires a union of opposites from which the sacred child is born. If we've not learned how to hold the tension of opposites within ourselves, it will be difficult to hold it in others when we meet someone with an opposite view of the world than us. Compassion or love is often born out of our own struggles, from the struggle of learning how to hold the opposites within ourselves and to love the lost and abandoned parts of ourselves. I believe it is through our wounding and our suffering that we learn to love first ourselves and then others. And it's another one of those paradoxes. So how do we build a bridge? Pierre de Chardin says that love alone is capable of uniting living things in such a way as to complete and fulfill them, for it alone takes them and joins them by what is deepest in themselves. He goes on to say that love is the most powerful and still most unknown energy in the world, and is the agent of universal synthesis. Love is, he says, a meeting of two souls, fully accepting the dark and light within each other, bound by courage to growth through struggle into bliss. So compassion is born out of our own struggles, and it allows us to begin to see and hold the darkness and unconscious aspects of another being. Maya Angelou says, "Well, I know myself as a creation of God. I am also obligated to realize and remember that everyone else and everything else are also God's creation." Martin Luther King, in his effort to unite people, talked a lot about agape, which is a divine love. And he says, agape does not begin by discriminating between worthy and unworthy people or any qualities people possess. It begins by loving others for their sakes. It's an entirely neighbor-regarding concern for others, which discovers the neighbor in every man or woman it meets. Therefore, agape makes no distinction between friend and enemy. It is directed towards both. Compassion helps us to understand that not everyone has our experience, or knows what you know, or believes what as you do, or has studied as you have. Unconditional love allows us to accept others exactly as they are, without needing them to be any other than how they are. As we heard the ladies sing the beautiful song this morning, that love is what can build a bridge between your heart and mine, and that love and only love can join the tribes of man. And what helps us to stay open to love in the midst of conflict is learning how to find our own center point or our own still point. T.S. Eliot writes that if it were not for the still point, there would be no dance, and there's only the dance. Life is this continual dance of opposites. Our task, I think, is to find that still point now and to find the balance point, that middle way, to find our way onto the bridge. And we find that by being willing first to hold the tension of opposites without swinging from one pole to the other pole. Taizan Deshmeru says, harmonizing opposites by going back to their source is a distinctive quality of the Zen attitude, the middle way. Embracing contradictions, making a synthesis of them, achieving balance. And in order to find the balance or the middle way, we may need to first shift our attitudes and our perception from life, thinking that life has to be either this way or that way, and into the possibility that it could be both this way and this way. And instead of focusing on our differences and seeing only opposing forces, we might begin to look at how they might be complementary forces that can bring forth a surprising transpersonal third. The key is to find a place to hold the tension arising from within without swinging from one side to the other. Love can build a bridge, I believe. And Chardin says that one day, after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, after all the scientific and technological achievements, that we shall harness for God the energies for love. And then, for the second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. As you leave here this morning, I want to leave you with some very practical steps that I found by Henry Nouwen. And he suggests that we ask every evening, and perhaps every morning, we ask ourselves, did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go of my anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? These are the real questions, he says. And then he adds, I must trust that the little bit of love that I sow now will bear many fruits here in this world and the life to come. So we ask ourselves, did I offer peace today? Did I bring a smile to someone's face? Did I say words of healing? Did I let go of anger and resentment? Did I forgive? Did I love? For we know that it is love that can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Thank you.
Please rise, embody your spirit for the last hymn of the day, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the
change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard nights.
Our benediction is adapted from Eric Williams. We all emerge from, dwell within, are transformed by, and called back by love. May it build bridges, not walls. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.